Hello. Welcome back to People Are People. Today I am talking about when the unexpected happens. So, the first real memory I have of something unexpected happening was when I was 18 and I was moving to New York City to go to FIT for college. And my mom was going to take me, and we were so excited. Um, and I was going to live in the dorm and all this. And my sister had just moved to Florida. And my parents had taken her there to go to law school. And they came back, and then it was my turn. I was going like a week later. And so I was getting ready to go, and my mom fell so ill. Like, they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what was causing her to be so sick. She was on the couch. She could barely get up. We thought she was going to die. Like, it was that bad. I don't even remember what it was, like a sepsis or something. It was very bad. At the last second, my dad took off work, bought a ticket, took me to New York. It was totally unexpected. I was nervous. I don't want to say disappointed, but I was like, it was not what we planned. Mom and I were going to go. We have cousins there. We were going to shop and move in and do all the stuff. But my dad stepped up. He, hung up my clothes with me, and we moved into my dorm, and we met my roommate, who was gross, and we did all the things that my mom would have done with me. So sometimes the unexpected things turn out okay. Then the most unexpected thing that happened was when I had my son. So I had a good pregnancy, followed all the rules. He came out, and he was gorgeous and perfect and delicious. And I just knew. And they say mothers have instinct. I had no reason to know, but I did. And I was just holding him and looking at him in the hospital, and he was perfect. And I just knew. And then over, a few months, things would happen, and I would notice. I would talk to the doctor. He said, no, I really don't see anything. And then he got old enough. He would say like ma, but it wasn't with intent. It wasn't like said to me. So then, but he never regressed. That was not our journey. I know the controversy, don't care. I know, I do not believe it was any type of vaccine injury. I have heard of people who can pinpoint, what day they noticed a difference. That's not our journey. I just know that this is what he was supposed to be like, and this is what he was born like. And, so we just went with that from the beginning. We just, addressed the symptoms. So when he was like a year old, I went to the doctor, and he had, we love our pediatrician. We're very close with them, and we've known their family. And he had like a student with him, and the student, was like, oh, he just answered to his name. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, it's very sweet of you to try to, make me feel great, but mommy knows. He did not. If you would like clap your hands in his ear and yell, he wouldn't look at you. But if Barney was playing 6 rooms away, he went running. So, and all the typical, markers, the light up toys and the noisy toys, he loved those, and he could hear those, but he wouldn't respond to you. If I would shake my keys and say bye-bye, we would go. But if I said, get your shoes on, let's go, he was like, so by 18 months, we had gone, I finally said to my pediatrician, he's like, I just don't think. And I was like, are you going to refer me? And he's like, yes, I will refer you. So, and he wasn't trying to delay anything for me. He didn't see it as like so blatant, because we didn't have the behaviors. We had love. We had this loving, delicious, he's still delicious, child. So, there were a lot of things that you couldn't just say, well, this is a sure thing. We went to a developmental pediatrician who they ran tests, and he was like particularly strange that day, like things that he has never done, like staring at the carpet, like things he never did before, but he was weird that day. It was like random. They were not comfortable giving a diagnosis to someone so young. So we went to Ann Arbor, which is like near University of Michigan. It's like 45 minutes from here. And there was this amazing developmental pediatrician there. And he was like, yep, he has autism. He described it as mild. In some cases, he wrote on like reports moderate, but he used to say like, oh, he'll outgrow this by kindergarten. So when someone tells you that, you think in your mind, oh, by kindergarten, they'll be in general education. Like you've got it all figured out. So he went to preschool, like an early on preschool program, and they moved him quickly into the autism preschool, and he did amazing there. His teacher was amazing. He was there because he started so young, like at 2. He was there for, straight through to kindergarten. When he was like 4, the teacher said, okay, and my other son had potty trained by then. He potty trained in like a half a day. And the teacher was like, bigger kid, bigger poop. Bigger kid, more pee. And I was like, okay, because diapers are just easy. You didn't have to really communicate. We ended up potty training him. He started talking more. He's never conversational. He's never going to say, how are you doing? Because he does not care. But he started, I remember the first time, and they taught me how to do this. We went to therapy. They taught me. So I was pushing him on a swing, and I stopped the swing. And when he would look at me, then I would push the swing again. So it wasn't like a harsh therapy, but it was a way to go, once you acknowledge me, then you get rewarded. And he took to it very well. There was no crying. He was like, oh, guys, look at mommy, and then ultimately he would say more. Around this time, I was introduced to the poem Welcome to Holland. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's amazing. If I have this correct, one of the writers on Sesame Street wrote it for her child or about her child. And the concept is Welcome to Holland. And it's that you get on the airplane and you're going to Italy and you're so excited and you can't wait and you fly all the way there. And then you get off the airplane and you're like about to go to Italy. And then they announce Welcome to Holland. And you're like, and there's beautiful flowers and da-da-da. But you just have to reshift your focus and change your plan because now you're in Holland. And so that happened for us. But when I went to the doctor in Ann Arbor, my husband had a new job, so he couldn't take me. And my dad did, my amazing dad. And he drove us there. He took the day off, drove us there. And I remember being like, I should do this. Like my dad waited in the waiting room. In hindsight, today, I would love for my dad to be in there with me, but I felt like I had to do this, just me. So I went in and, he gives us his diagnosis and he, whatever. And we got in the car and my dad was driving. So I got on the phone and he was like, there's different therapies you can do. You can do ABA therapy, which is sort of the gold standard. It's the way that we used to describe it. Remember, this is 16 years ago, was like you would stack 2 blocks. Stack a block here and put a little a purple and a blue, and then you would have the same blocks here and you would say to the kid, make same, which really isn't, it's come a long way as well, but in those days, make same is not really something that we would typically say to someone to duplicate something. So it was very robotic, but a lot of people had great success with it. We're more casual in general. So there was another therapy called play therapy. And it's called taffy polling. So they're lining up cars, which is something typical that, children with autism will do. So then you do that. So you take the car, you line it up, and then maybe you turn it. So you're taffy polling, you're seeing how long you can extend or expand this interaction you're having with your child. My husband was just naturally good at it. It was hilarious because he never sat through a training, watched a video. He just was good at it. So we sort of chose a play path. We did do ABA for a few months, somewhere in there, as he got older. But we just felt we were more casual. Rigidity is very common, and I tried not to be, and I didn't want that for my son, because it just sets you up for disappointment. So but back to this. So we're in the car and I literally got on the phone and I called all the centers, and I called the one for ABA and the one for play. And I was like, hi, my son was diagnosed 7 minutes ago. And they were like, when? And I was like, yeah, 7 minutes ago. Can I get in? So I hit the ground running. They told me to put him in OT, speech therapy. He really didn't need PT because he had like a little bit of a strange gait walking, but more of like just gumpy, not he wasn't going to fall. There was a time when he would like if a surface changed, he would sort of trip or, but OT was able to target that. So we didn't need PT. We met an amazing OT who I still refer to this day. I still adore her and consider her a friend. She did feeding therapy with him. So she did this feeding therapy that another mom invented, and you eat similar things. So if they eat French fries, maybe you try a sweet potato fry. You put it next to it, and then maybe a sweet potato fry, you can put like a carrot next to that, so that things are similar. And then they, whether they're texture, shape, color, size, and you go from there. And you actually start at the tips of their fingers, and you work your way up the shoulder, and then you have to kiss it and taste it. So my son would only eat Little Caesars cheese pizza and fishy crackers and raisins. And that was it. And pretzel fishy crackers were the only kind. It was a long couple of years of, Christmas, Little Caesars was closed. We had to make sure we picked one up early and put it in the fridge. So those things were rigid. But if I would drive a certain way to school and there was traffic or I would turn and he would cry about it, I made sure the next few days to drive completely different ways to school because I didn't want him to get so set in his ways. And you're 2 years old, you're not in charge of where we drive. So we adapted, and he did very well in the preschool. He stayed there until kindergarten. And then what happens is in our school district, they don't, unfortunately, even though I'm very blessed, I have a really great school district, the special needs kids are sort of bottom of the totem. So they put them where they can find a room. So they moved the school from the one right next to my house to one much further away, which was fine. But it wasn't on the same path as the other kids, what his peers would be doing. So once he got to 5th grade, his peers would continue on that path, but he would switch to a different string of schools because there was room at a different one. So thank God he was so easy. He adapted, but it was extra challenges that we didn't really need. And we're going through it now because now he's 18 and he's had an amazing, school experience from early on, before the preschool to preschool, elementary, middle. I mean, we know how lucky we are. He's delicious and amazing and easy, but this could have been much harder with a different school atmosphere. But now he's going to what I call it post-secondary, but they call it, I don't remember, but basically it's like the after you graduate. So he'll graduate this year, and he's the school he'll go to for 1 year. They're redoing it, and then they're going to put him in a different school next year that they're redoing. So it just so happens that my son's first year has to be the year where he'll only be there. Like the kids after who are juniors this year, they won't even know from this school. They'll go straight to the new school. But the teachers have assured me that it'll go smoothly. And because we've made sure he's not rigid, it's going to be okay. But some of the things that, just like anything, just like when you're grieving a loved one or whatever, you see good and bad in people. I was at the orientation and I was a little sassy. I do have that, about them doing this with the programming and where they were going to put the classrooms and stuff. And I just kept saying, well, of course, he's been to every line. He went to elementary, middle, and high school, all in different, strands. So he never stayed with the same peers except for in his little classroom. So it was no surprise that they were going to just put them in here for a year and whatever. And then so they showed it to us and they kind of just made this, it's fine, but they made this like little area for them. And they all have classrooms, but it just wasn't, they weren't thought of first. They just aren't ever. And so I went in there, and I'm very candid, and we went to different classrooms, and everyone was lovely. All the teachers, I mean, from every level, because there are kids that can go out into the, workforce, and they make dog treats there and they go sell them. And there are kids that do a coffee cart. My son is sort of, he's high enough functioning to get his needs met, and he's a pleasure to be around. He's easy, but you have to tell him everything he needs to do. So he's not at the the base level, because he can follow directions, but he'll need assistance. So I was talking very candidly to all the teachers, and I said, okay, so in this class, you do go out into because I love when he goes on field trips. He loves that. So I said, okay, so you do go out, but you also stay here. And then they have little like little work things. They give you like a box, and you have to assemble something and sell it or whatever you do. So I was trying to figure out in my mind where he would go. I hadn't yet seen a place that felt like a match for him, but I was just researching. So I go to one classroom. This woman was amazing, and I go to this other one, and she was real dry anyway, which is hard because even though they're 18, it's still your baby. And these two young women who were in the program came there to kind of just show us around, and they were so cute and certainly higher functioning than my son. And so I said to this teacher, again, very candid, and I've never had this issue because I am very candid and everyone is the same with me. And I said, so do you have kids and granted their mothers were there, but I said, do you have kids that are like less higher functioning than these ladies in this classroom? Because I was trying to see if this is where he would end up. And she was so rude. She's like, we just try to meet them where they're at. And I'm like, yeah, I know all the lingo. I've been down this road long enough. And I think she just didn't want to say like lower functioning, higher functioning, but it is what it is. So I of course cried because it's funny. I've only been emotional a few times. When he first got his diagnosis, I think I cried for 1 minute, and I just said, oh, his name is so cute. His name is Nash. And I said, oh, I gave him this cute name, so it would be cute on a business card. That's probably not his journey. And then that was it. I never mourned what he wouldn't be because he's so delicious. But something about her delivery and just, I felt like a dismissal. So I was hysterical. It was very bad. And I think it was just a heavy moment. Your kids become an adult, in kindergarten, when the doctor said, oh, he'll outgrow up by kindergarten. Well, when kindergarten came, I knew that wasn't the story. And then by the time he was in the middle of elementary school, they would integrate him into general education, and he would ask to go back to his classroom. I mean, again, he's not conversational, but he would say, back to class, or just, a simple sentence. And so we respected that because my goal for him is to be happy all day. He smiles when he gets on the bus. He smiles when he gets off the bus. That's my only goal. So I went to another room, and I kind of told them, and actually the director, who's also a teacher of that program, she said, what do you mean? She goes, what? She goes, oh, like higher functioning? Or she goes, but she even took the words out of my mouth. I never said it. She goes, oh, you mean anyone, is anyone lower functioning? She said it. So she knew what I was saying. She didn't have to be PC in the middle of all of this and do that to me. So I was just like, I'm not choosing what class you put him in. I don't think we're a match for her anyway, but I would like someone who's a little more warm and fuzzy for him because he's so yummy. And I just wanted someone with a little more compassion. And they said that we weren't going to have her anyway. So they ended up having, they basically said that we were going to have one of the ones that we like. And everyone else was great. But it's just funny, little things that are said to you along this journey, they resonate, but they also stick with you. I had a friend that I met pretty early on. I wouldn't say I'm a closet case, but I didn't use the word autism right away because everyone thought of Rain Man. So I'm aging myself, but that's what they thought of. They thought of a savant and a strange, no one knew that there's really no limit. You're not putting a cap on these kids. And so, I didn't want to say exactly who he was, rather his diagnosis, but I just, we knew he had delays, if you will. So, but I met a friend, and she said, look at your wedding picture. She says, you will see an innocence where nothing mattered, where you weren't scared, you weren't pressured, you weren't dealing with all of this. And she was right. So you learn to accept these changes, these unexpected changes. But she's right. I mean, I looked at my wedding picture and I was like, this girl had no idea what she was in for. And then, so you have this baby and your baby's a little different. They're not waving at the same time. They're not saying hi at the same time. And so did you eat feta cheese when you were pregnant? Meanwhile, I had two pregnancies 20 months apart. I mean, the two babies 20 months apart. So my pregnancies were close. And I did everything the same for both. Did you, I had one text come through. Did you get a flu shot when you were pregnant? It's such a funny thing. I don't know that I would have the balls to do that, but people are people. And so she said, did you get a flu shot when you were pregnant? And I was like, no, you should get two. Because do you really think a flu shot, like, it's just, I guess people always want to have a reason why or a cause. I didn't feel that way. Someone else said to me that God only wanted me to have two children. That's why he made him the way he was. Okay. So people don't know what to say, I think, is part of it. And they just say very interesting things. But for the most part, people come through. They introduce you to their therapist. They tell you who they're working with. You get to know people in the waiting room at the therapy center, and you find out what they're working on. And I had an OT, this OT who was amazing, who did the feeding therapy. She did not have any time on her books, but I had heard she was amazing. And I met her in the waiting room because we were doing speech there. And so I said to her, when we can get on your book, we really want in. And she came in for months on Fridays, which was her day off. She came in so she could accommodate him until he could get on her schedule. And then it worked out. But I'll never forget that. You don't forget those things even when they're 18. So over the 18 years, I would say that it is probably easier, if you will, end quote, for someone diagnosed today. Even though 18 years ago, people said to me, it's easier than it was 20 years before this. Because we do have great resources. And here in Michigan, I mean, we are lucky. We do have a ton of great opportunities for our kids. My son goes to a summer camp. He sleeps with the schedule on his nightstand. It's his favorite part of the year. Every single day they go on a field trip. He's been going there since he was a little boy, but now he's old enough they can go on the field trips every day. They go to the movies, they go to the zoo, the water park. He loves it. They haven't gotten the schedule out yet this year because they're doing some restructuring, and he asks me every single night where it is so he can sleep with it. So even though it's unexpected and even though it's scary at first, you can't believe how adaptable you are and how scary, unexpected things turn out just fine. He is a blessing. He is so delicious, so sweet. He and my sister and my niece, sometimes he'll be sitting next to them at the booth in the restaurant, and he'll put his arm around them and start snuggling them. And they're like so excited because he doesn't always show you that side of him because he's sort of into his own stuff. But like his favorite thing is, to make videos on his phone. And then if I let him use my phone, it's the best day ever because he can do both. When I have family over, he loves when they come over. He doesn't really want to interact. I mean, he's so happy they're there. He'll go get his own pop and he's so excited, but he just wants to be in the mix and do his own thing. Like when they're kids and they parallel play, he just continues to parallel exist. And he'll say hi to them and smile, but he loves having people over. He just, wants to do his own thing while you're there. So, and I know how lucky we are because we don't have a lot of the hard obstacles that a lot of other people have with behaviors and with, rigidity and things like that. Like we have to eat, this food on this day at this time. We don't have that. He does ask to go to the same Coney Island restaurant. And I do that because it's not taking away from anything that we were going to do. And we always make sure it fits into what we were planning. So it never inconveniences anyone. And he knows that. Like if it, we can negotiate. Oh, we really wanted pizza today. And he'll say it, Coney Island. And I'll say, or Leo's. And I'll say, well, we really were going to have pizza. Let's do that. And we'll do, Coney tomorrow. And he'll be fine with that. He has no problem with that. So I know how lucky we are. The future is, we've gotten the guardianship. They have a program till they're 26, which is so lucky because you want them to do things. I mean, this is not a new diagnosis. It's just newer to keep them out of institutions and in the public eye. So he'll go to school till he's 26. And then I know there are some programs out there. I haven't heard of any that I feel are a perfect match, but if I have to invent one, I will. I just need a couple naps before that. I'm a little sleepy, but we'll get to that. But he will always, be cared for and loved. And even when he goes to these programs, I mean, they act like a celebrity is walking in. It's amazing. This community and the caregivers that are in it, they're amazing. Whether they're camp counselors, teachers, school employees, everyone's amazing. We'll be places and kids that knew him will scream his name. Kids, general, typical developing children, treat him like he's a celebrity. And that's all a mother could ask for. I think my biggest fear going into adulthood is, when my other son, let's say he moves out and has a family and whatever he's doing, and my son has care, because he'll always need some type of caregiver in the home. So, my biggest fear, which is so far-fetched, is if a caregiver would leave before before the next caregiver comes. But we have technology and we have, Ring doorbells, and we have ways to know if people are coming and going. So thank goodness, he'll be safe and he knows how to use a phone, sort of. He just isn't really interested. But there are always ways around it. And there are so many caring people. So when life throws you the unexpected, and it will, it's okay. And sometimes it's very fulfilling and you have a beautiful, existence and experience, and you didn't expect it, but it's just what you needed. And so enjoy the blessing and just don't worry. See you later.